Welcome back to your home for self-expression. I See You with Karla Sue, where we shine our light through mindset, music, and movement, and we do it every single episode. I am Karla Sue, your happy host. Today's topic, as have been the last several this month, is a toughie. We are in Suicide Awareness and Prevention Month, and our guest has a story to share. I think it's really important to always state in every episode and remind ourselves that those of us who have to weather those storms and have to become resourceful are the ones that are resilient and create really important programs in the world. And let me tell you about Joe Lyons-Rising. It's a very cool name. There's a great story behind it, but what a beautiful name. And it really describes his journey into healing. I'm going to let him tell you about his Data Gives Back, which is his company that funds his vision, a seasoned center for grieving children. You know, suicide is an important topic because it touches all of us. And I'd like to share why it's relevant to me. The song that you hear in the intro and the outro, Surfer Girl, is one of my original songs. And Surfer Girl became my muse. Surfer Girl is a love song to a guitar, to the guitar itself that I played. And it had this beautiful paint color with teals and blues and violets, and it looked like a tidal pool. And I am so drawn to the sea that it kept me alive. This is an important topic. And before we get to Joe, I want you guys to sit down, make sure you have a cup of tea. We're going to talk about tough stuff, and we're going to talk about the beauty that comes out of it. Thank you so much for tuning in, and stay tuned for 1 second. We have something to share with you.
I'm Dr. Audrey Tang, a chartered psychologist, and on my show, Mental Health Matters, we take a deep dive into all things mental health and well-being with the experts. So join us at 8 a.m. PST on Thursdays on the Fresh Takes channel, because Mental Health Matters on E360 TV.
Good morning, Joe. It warms my heart to see that mental health matters to so many of us. Welcome to the show.
Thanks so much for having me here today, Karla Sue. I really appreciate the opportunity.
I'm thrilled to have you. I mentioned that you have a tragic story that turned into transformation, and that I love your name. Could you share a little bit about that stuff with us?
Of course. Yeah, so it's been a 40-year grief journey that I've been on. I actually just turned 45 the other week. I'm a Leo, and I have this interesting name, Lyons-Rising. And the name actually is a pretty great reflection of what I've been through since I first dealt with grief as a suicide loss survivor. So when I was 6 years old, unfortunately, my dad died from suicide. He had been really struggling with his mental health through his bipolar disorder he had for decades, and this was in 1986. Things are obviously improving today. All these 40 years later, it was very different then. So yeah, 6 years old, I didn't even really know what grief was. Didn't really understand death other than what I saw in the movies. I definitely didn't understand suicide. And, I tried to figure it out with my mom, was raising myself and my sister. My sister's 4 years older. And, she got remarried, and that's where the rising part comes along. So my biological father's last name is Lyons, so I was always Joey Lyons. And then my mom got remarried, and it was great. She had a kid. All of a sudden, I became a big brother, which was like the best gift in the world when I was 8 years old. I even brought my brother to show and tell. I was the only kid in grade 3 to bring my baby brother to show and tell. So my yeah, my mom brought my brother to school, but unfortunately later that year, she was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis, and you know, with that really debilitating disease and the impact on mental health and depression that went along with that. Unfortunately, when I was 10, she died by suicide as well. And really, that was where my life completely flipped. My mom was everything to me, and like many people, right, our closest attachment growing up is by far typically our mothers. So yeah, that's really where all of a sudden at 10 years old I started to think about why why me,
Mm.
why us,
Mhm.
and what do I do now? Like at 10 years old, I'm thinking, what's what's the point of life going forward? What am I left with to deal with, and how do I deal with it? So yeah, that's really the start of kind of where I've now come, really 35 years later.
It's a remarkable story. It is a remarkable story. I understand that music is really important to you as a healing tool, just like I shared with the song Surfer Girl being the expression of love to my muse, keeping me alive. You have some music in your life. Tell us
Yes.
all about it.
Yes. So I've been, a part-time DJ for 25 years. But I'd say I've been a music lover since I was probably 5. So actually, it's pretty cool. My dad was really into music. Even like my grandfather was in a like a big band. He was a singer, and so there was music all around me growing up. A lot of really great music, and so I don't know. I found even before I was DJing, even as a
Mhm.
kid, I just absolutely loved listening to different music. I was into breakdancing when I was like 5 and 6 and 7. So I just got into listening to like mixtapes and stuff when I was younger. And I just found that when my parents passed, I could I could rely on music to be there.
Mm.
And I had certain songs, like I'm not saying every song is uplifting. There are
Mhm.
certain songs if I wanted to really cry it out, that like
Mhm.
that really got to the heartstrings, I could go there. But I started to really, I think, like the rhythm of certain music, especially like funk and jazz and hip hop and things like that, and eventually house music, which is what I've been a DJ at for 25 years. It really just brought me to a great place, a positive place of expression
Mhm.
where I wasn't feeling grief. I wasn't feeling depression and anxiety. I was in that moment.
Ah, you didn't feel the painful emotions, not because you were numb,
No,
but because you were present in your craft and art.
100%. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
It's the flow. Like, when I started to learn to DJ and mix records, I wasn't great. But I was concentrating. Like you're really concentrating, right? You're trying to get these 2 vinyl records. I still have all my vinyl to play at the same speed, like 2 cars, matching them up, right? Get them on the same beat, and then start to think about, okay, I'm going to mix this. I'm going to turn the bass off here. I'm going to do all these things. So that's the beauty of DJing, is that I'm so focused. Even when I'm downstairs, like, working on a mix or a mixtape, I can be down here for 4 or 5 hours and it feels like an hour. Like my wife will be like, I don't know where you went for 5 hours. I'm like, I went to a happy place, but I'm sorry. I will come up and do the dishes. Yeah.
You're a responsible musician. So it's been really crucial for you in your grief journey. I respect
Mm.
that a lot. Where do you do these events and who are you helping?
So it's changed. Like I said, I'm 45. I'm
Mhm.
s- happily married. I have a stepdaughter who's 17, a daughter who's 8. And so I used to live down in Toronto. And I used to do nights in Toronto regularly and run my own nights and play certain gigs and bars and clubs and stuff. I really slowed down
Mm.
a few years back. I became a dad, and as I'm getting older, so now I find I like to DJ like earlier sets. I'm the guy that is like happy when I get booked to play at 9 o'clock at night, 8 o'clock at night. Um, but I'm also doing a lot of charity events. So
Mm.
I actually just got booked to play a really cool vinyl only charity event next month, and it's all for raising money for a local food bank down in Toronto.
That's fantastic. Food bank in Toronto. I did forget to mention for our viewers at the beginning of the hour that our esteemed guest, Mr. Lyons-Rising, is from Ontario, Canada. That is something that is important to note because my guests are from all over the world, and we are healers from different time zones, and it's very cool. What can you tell us about? I love the idea of your company funding your dream. In your journey, where did that inspiration come?
I think since I was in university
Yeah.
that I started to get this realization, this true appreciation of how far I had come to, and I was in a really great place mentally and had amazing friends. My family is just incredible. You know, I have step parents and I have like plural, and then so I have these extra sets of family and people have just been there, and I just started to really. I think as I grew up, I took stock of my life and how close I was to my older sister, my younger brother who I helped raise, my stepdad,
Mm.
and my friends. So I started to have this feeling like I have this greater purpose. Yes, I'm at school for economics and business. Yes, I just bought turntables and I'm starting to DJ. Those are cool things,
Mhm.
but I feel like I kind of weathered this ridiculous storm for a reason, but I didn't quite know what to do with that idea.
Okay.
So, I went corporate, did all that, tried to, I was actually married previously. Unfortunately, that was tough, went through that. And then, um, you know, I've always been volunteering and getting involved in whether it's, children's charities, different events. I would try to, even volunteer DJing at my daughter's school, that kind of fun stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I just started to feel like, wow, this is so great. I just love giving back. I wonder if one day I could just do this full time. And as much as I would love to volunteer my time full time, obviously we have financial needs and all those kind of things. So enter COVID-19, enter the pandemic. At the time, I was a director of insights and analytics for one of the largest food companies in Canada. I didn't mention like I'm a data person. I'm a former mathlete. I love math. Um,
Cool.
and it's funny how math and DJing seem to go well together, the timing of it all.
I bet.
But yeah, so like a lot of people, I made a big career change during the pandemic, and I really put the things that mattered most in my world first. My family, so I wanted to be home full time, keep
Mm-hmm.
them safe for as long as that was going to take place. We went through a lot of lockdowns here in the Ontario area.
We did too.
And then I wanted to take this skill I had learned, this all this analytics and things, and help grieving children. So I had learned about social enterprises. I had learned about B Corps prior to that, and so I don't know. One day I just kind of during all the frenzy of the first 6 months of the pandemic, which was almost actually 4 years ago in August 2020. I just spoke to my wife Carly and I said, "Listen, I think I'm going to quit my job. I'm going to get rid of my pension, my car allowance, my benefits, and I'm going to start a company. And also, I want to donate 25% of our gross revenue, not our profit, but our top line revenue, to Season Center for Grieving Children. Will you trust me to try it for 1 year? If it doesn't work for a year, I'll go and try to get another corporate job." Yeah, yeah, and she's incredible because she was cool with it.
Greetings Greetings, I'm Angel Marie Monticelli, host of Energize You TV, every Thursday at 11 a.m. Pacific Time. Go to Fresh Takes right here on E360 and get Reikified and energized today.
We were just talking with Joe Lyons-Rising about what an important role music has played in his life and his healing journey. And he's not just a musician, he can also write. This guy has a book coming out. It is Pain Remixed. So clever for a DJ. Pain Remixed. Tell us all about that book.
Sure. Yeah. Thanks, Karla. I think that this is kind of like our third child. I've been writing this book for 8 years.
Mm.
And it's a self-help book. And really it's, taking the learnings that I've experienced, going through, I call it kind of the 4 areas of mental health. And so
Oh,
it's kind of, subtitle of the book is Pain Remixed, Navigating Life with Trauma, Grief, Depression, and Anxiety. And I've come to know all four of those areas very well.
I'm sure.
Um, and so, obviously, as a DJ and talking about how music has helped me, I really wanted to bring that to life in a unique way about mental health, because some mental health books, um, like, yes, I'm going to talk about suicide loss. I'm going to talk about how I was, diagnosed with an anxiety disorder in my 30s, and I've gone through severe panic attacks, and these are very serious things. But I
Mhm.
want it to be an uplifting book. I want it to be positive, and I wanted to share things that have really helped me get through. And that's where the Pain Remix piece is. So I kind of break the book into 3 sections. Each chapter is a different record, and
Oh,
and then it goes through childhood, adolescence, adulthood, those 4 areas of mental health. The last section of each one is Pain Remixed. And those are the tips, right? Those are the things that helped me. So whether or not it was when I was younger, I was actually quite into snowboarding when I was in high school.
mm.
So
Oh,
that really
cool.
helped me, right? And I was into sports like track and field and basketball and stuff like that, or different things I've learned from all the different types of therapy I've gone to, cognitive behavioral therapy, and then obviously talking about music, right? And talking about the art.
Yeah.
So it's funny, when I started to write this book, I started to get into that similar flow state when I was doing music. Okay. I could go and write these stories. And there are, I do have my personal stories woven into the book. And those are the ones where I could really lose myself for hours writing.
Mm.
And it was, yes, it was tough. There were a lot of tears left on the keyboard. But man, was it ever therapeutic. I'd been sitting on a lot of that stuff, and keeping it inside. And even my wife, when I'd read other chapters, like, you've never told me that, or I
Really?
didn't know that level of detail. So I'm I'm all for destigmatizing mental health so we can all get the right help we need. I would love for it to feel like, um, going to a therapist or a psychologist is just as common as going to your family doctor when you have the flu or when you have a broken arm. That's
Mhm.
really what it should be. And I think as a society, we'd be so much better for it. So yeah, the book itself, I'm thrilled. I'm going to be donating 100% of the author proceeds to Season Center for Grieving Children. So even just buying the book, you're going to get a little sense of that feeling I have of giving back and helping grieving children.
It's just a beautiful cycle and a beautiful symphony how it has come together in your life. And the book is coming out. When is that coming out? When can we pre-order it?
So the pre-order will come out, in the fall, or probably like in October.
Okay.
The actual launch date will be around the third week of November, and that was on purpose. November, is Children's Grief Awareness Month,
Mm-hmm.
and I do a lot of work with Season Center that month. There's a lot of things we do to
Mm-hmm.
recognize that, and so I'm just really excited to have the book be part of that
Mm-hmm.
and contributing to that awareness.
That is fantastic. And for you guys at home, what we'll do as the months go by is I'll still keep posting Joe's stuff, and still keep sharing things for your information, for when we can do the purchase for the book, for when he might be DJing in an area near you, and where you can find his music on Soundscapes.
Thank you.
This is just so beautiful how you have integrated your healing tools, and that's what you offer.
Yeah.
And when you say children, I notice the age range that you work with
Mhm.
at your foundation, 5 to 24. That's an interesting age range.
Yeah, and just to be clear, I'm just like a supporter. I'm a volunteer. It was started by Rolly Ramey, the co-founder. So he founded Season Center about 28 years ago
Mm.
after unfortunately the tragic loss of both of his daughters.
Oh,
But again, he turned his pain into purpose. He's a huge inspiration to me. When I text regularly, he's an amazing person. Which ironically, he used to DJ. It's so funny like that. So ironic, but you know, yeah, the center, the center itself, it just has this wide range, and I know it you might not think as young adult as children,
mm-hmm.
but as I'm a parent now, when my daughter's 24, I will definitely think of her as a child,
Of course.
as my child. But yes, the nice thing, I love what they do at Season Center is it's peer to peer group. They're free sessions,
Okay.
and they group the children by age cohort, right? So you know it goes from 5 to 24, but there's definitely different age groups, and I noticed that it's a big difference having two siblings with a big age variance. You know,
Mhm.
there's 12 years difference between my sister and my younger brother. Okay, we all went through grief very differently,
I
and
believe.
so grouping children, teens, and young adults by that life stage is so critical.
Mhm.
Then they're talking to their peers that have just lost, you know, a mother, a father, a caregiver, a sibling. Uh, the other thing that I really love is that they do have a segment for suicide loss as well as accidental overdose.
Oh, oh,
Yes.
that's a good distinction.
Hmm. Yeah. So it is
How does
different.
that play out?
Yeah. So
Is it
sorry. Yeah. All it means is that depending on those types of losses, they're going to try to group those children in those same groups together. They'll be in the same cohort together.
That's
Um,
fantastic.
and it's because suicide loss, accidental overdose, it is a different type of a grieving process than the other types of grief. Not to say the other grief, it's incredibly painful. It's just sometimes there's some other emotions and
Yeah,
things.
grief is so complex, and that is an important distinction to make, because there's a different dynamic for the motivation for overdose. Because music is so important to you, you have shared with me an idea of a song that you'd like to discuss today as transformative in your life, and it's one that most of us know: Beatles, Blackbird. What is the story behind why we selected that to focus on today?
It's funny because if you ask a DJ what their favorite song is, they can't choose, right? I have
Mhm.
thousands of records and too much music. Um, and it was hard for me to choose because there are some great songs I have had to most of my life, whether it was on tape, vinyl, CD. Now
Tape.
it's
Yeah.
now it's on Spotify when I need to. But that song, well, there's a message behind it, right? It was a really strong message that was written by Paul McCartney. It was actually about around the civil rights movement in the United States, and he had observed that one of his travels to the United States, and watched a young black woman going through this challenge, right?
Mm,
And it kind of
mhm,
like this, but it becomes an uplifting song to
mhm,
say, as painful as life is right now, right? You're going to take these broken wings and learn to fly.
mhm.
And it's a moment for me. I know it's very different circumstance, but you can apply this song to say, yes, things seem very bleak and almost hopeless, but there is always light, right? There is always light in the darkness. There is always hope. And you can fly, to a new height. You might feel like you're at your lowest point,
Mm-hmm.
but you won't always stay there, right? And then the song is just beautiful. It's very simple. There actually isn't a ton of words or lyrics, but it's just like one of those works of art that is truly timeless.
Yeah, I
Um,
agree.
yeah.
I found when listening to your music and then binging on Blackbird, um, your music that I listened to, and this could be completely incorrect, but to me feels trance-like, really, really meditative, where your body can move and you can be
Mhm.
present. With Blackbird, it's such an elevated intention. If you listen to it over and over, it's meditative too. And what do you do in the music that you produce that makes me start to move, that makes me feel like I'm connected? How do you do that?
I mean, it's all rooted in drums, especially like tribal drums, right? So
Yeah.
it's house music. I do include a lot of like '90s, early 2000s hip hop samples,
Mm.
a lot of that kind of stuff. But house music, I mean, it's rooted from Chicago, uh,
Hmm.
the house music mecca. But it's all rooted in drums, which I think honestly, and again, I haven't done any science or research on this, but you take it back to like the tribal roots that we've all come from at some point, right? We've
Mm.
all humankind coming from different tribal sounds and just resonating. And I even noticed this with kids. Like kids really like dance music, like house music, because of that rhythm,
Mm.
right? And then there's like obviously it's looped patterns and like that. So um, the other thing that's kind of unique is that DJing house music is that we're constantly mixing, so you almost can't tell when one song ends, one
Hmm.
song starts, and when we're mixing two songs, we might have them mixed for a few minutes together, so they're almost creating a new song. And that's the really fun part, is that you can be really creative, and and a lot of these DJ sets are multiple hours. It's not uncommon for DJs to play 4-hour sets where they're mixing nonstop at a club. Some DJs even play 10 hours, like Danny Tenaglia. A lot of these real legends for DJs or house music. So I think that's personally like
Hmm.
it does have disco roots. I liked disco growing up. I grew up in the '80s. I liked a lot of funk and disco and stuff like that.
Hmm.
Um, but I think that's why it also, what I love about house music, I have friends and connections of DJs and producers from all over the world,
Hmm.
and we end up making a lot of the same type of music or similar sounds, and but we like connect with it. Even if we speak different languages, different cultures, we can really all come together and connect.
Yes. Yes, we can.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, we can. I am going to dork out. Can we dork out on music for a second? I don't feel like being a
Of
grown up
course.
right now.
Yeah,
Okay, cool.
I could do it all day. Yeah.
So I'm dorking out here, and you are saying that while you are mixing the two individual pieces of music, you have the sound of both, which creates a new sound experience, a new song. That is why I feel that vocal harmonies are so critical in music. Soloists are great, and I'm a soloist, but I love to sing with other people because those nuances that aren't really in my hands, but we can hear them.
Mm-hmm.
That's beautiful. Anything else that you want to say about the DJing and the kids together as like lumped together?
Um, I would say it's funny how they can feel so different. Like
Mm.
I have, kind of have three things going on, right? Like I'm a corporate analytics trainer for big retail companies, food manufacturers. but then I'm also a DJ, right? So I have this passion for music. Um, and then the nice thing is that right now everything is for the kids. Like when I'm DJing, 25% of my pay goes to our business. It goes to the kids. Same thing with the business, goes to the kids. And it just, I have to say it feels so great, so whatever, and it doesn't have to be monetary support,
Yeah.
but I would just encourage, if you have the opportunity to volunteer, give back your time or your energy to someone else in need. Man, is it like some of the best therapy you ever have in your life?
True that. In your role as a leader at Data Gives Back in the corporate consultant analytics stuff, which my brain, it's words to me. How you call yourself, you're so clever, Chief Empathy Officer. How do you foster and nurture a sense of empathy among the individuals and for the group as a whole?
Yeah, so I think I've been fortunate. Well, I've had incredible managers and leaders mentor me through my career. Not saying all were awesome, but the ones that were excellent, just
Yeah.
excellent. And I've mirrored a lot of what they've taught me. And I think I've brought in my own values of just how I want to treat people or be treated myself.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I'm now working with people from Canada, United States, Europe, India. I did a training recently with 100 people across 20 countries online. You're kind of meeting people at different places where they're at, whether they are in their career, their experience, even mental health. You don't know what's going on, stress, burnout. So I just try to be mindful of that. Even when I'm training with them, I want to make sure, like, I'm not adding a layer of stress. I'm actually trying to help make your job easier, so you're not as stressed.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of like data training to help your mental health at work,
Oh.
so that maybe I can teach you something that's going to make your job easier.
Mm-hmm.
You won't need to stay as late, and maybe that extra time you were going to put in, extra hours, go do something fun. Go do something with your family. Because I've felt corporate burnout myself, and I've seen it, and I want to try to help people reduce that by giving them the skills to make their job easier and more fulfilling.
That sounds like it takes a lot of effort for you to have that humanistic, supportive environment.
Yeah, it's not easy sometimes to turn it off. Like I'm definitely a sensitive person. I think that's one of the things I've gone through, is like they call it HSP, or highly sensitive person, even to light and sound sometimes. I'm just taking a lot of things in a kind of different way. So I'm, when I hear someone who I may not know a ton, but I've worked with, and they tell me, oh, this person passed away, like, it isn't like I just kind of brush it off. Right. And if they're a coworker, I really start to feel it. I really start to feel like, wow, okay, that person just lost their wife. Okay, I'm going to make sure to like check up and talk to them afterwards. But yes, it can be tiring. So that's one thing that I've changed now. I have the luxury of making my own schedule. Like today, I had a nap in the afternoon. I've come to realize the things I've gone through can sometimes be I know they're very emotionally tiring, even all these decades later. So now I allow myself to take that time if I need to. I can block time in my schedule. Fridays, I typically don't book any training. They're my mental health Fridays. I try to do something fun, creative, or just do stuff with my family. So
That's a really useful thing. So for people at home who have flexibility to take a day off with your family, I bet that really helps your motivation for the other days.
big time.
Yeah. For those who are struggling with grief, what words of encouragement? You said that there's a light at the end of the tunnel, and with the song Blackbird, it's talking about, there's the line, into the light of the dark black night. that is really, really, really encouraging in and of itself. Give me a couple more.
Sure. I mean, it's a slow process. There's
Yeah.
and there's grief, and then there's grieving. So grief is at that moment how you're feeling, right? I will always feel grief. Anyone who's ever had loss will always feel grief. But the grieving is kind of, think about a line graph. The grieving is the trend
Oh,
between the grief points, right? And that grieving will always change, right? It'll never be the exact same.
yeah.
It never will. It's like it's like every day in our lives is not the same. So it's
Mhm.
horrible on our really, really griefy days, like, you know, not having the ability to get out of bed and just whatever. That's fine. Like, that's okay. Like, don't be hard on yourself, but like realize that not every day is going to be the same. And that's what
That's
I,
really good.
you know, and I've struggled again with all those areas of the trauma. I found my mom on her second last suicide attempt when I was 10, and I bottled that up for probably 10 years. I didn't tell anyone about it until I wrote a story about it in my last year of high school with my English teacher, and and she was like shocked about it, but it was a thing I didn't talk about to anyone. Um, so yeah, it's just like there's so much life that we still have yet to live.
Mhm.
And one thing I like to think about, and I know it might sound cheesy, but like
Oh,
the
I love
people
cheesy.
the people that left, like I know my parents
Mm-hmm.
didn't didn't take their lives to make me miserable.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they wanted me to succeed. They wanted my sister, my brother, and I all to succeed.
Yeah.
Yes, that's incredibly painful. It's not like you can just wake up next day and everything's fine. Like, it takes years.
Mm-hmm.
What I started to focus on were the people that were here in my life,
Mm.
the people that really showed up and took care of me and loved me and cared for me. Like, some of my best friends are ones that I still have from that time.
Oh, that's wonderful.
You know,
Yeah.
so like, yes, it's we can focus on the people that are gone, but we really need to appreciate the people that are here. And it doesn't have to be a spouse or a direct family member. It can be anyone in our community, because there's just amazing. It's people that help get us through,
Mm.
right? It
Yeah.
really is. It really is. So let's appreciate those people and what they bring to us. And sometimes it's in the morning you get up and you're having a really hard day. Just write down what you appreciate.
Mm.
Maybe there's a barista at the local coffee shop that smiles and is kind to you. That's something
Yeah.
positive, right? At least it's something. It's that little bit of that light in the darkness.
That's right. The little bit of the light in the darkness. I find that a lot of the people that I treat in my practice have a sort, and I've had it too, a sort of abstinence almost about journaling. That it just seems like such a big deal kind of a thing. I've found for you guys at home who may feel like, oh God, why would I need to journal? Joe is expressing how writing healed him. That's great, but why me? I promise you guys that if you sit down and you write the word of the feeling that you're feeling and you sit there, something else will probably come out. And when it does, did you find it different, Joe, when you leave it on the paper or you perform it, that it takes the emotional charge, the burden off of you?
What I found, what it does, because I've had many years of sleep challenges, big time,
Mhm.
right? Is we go through these loops,
Yeah.
right? The rumination of it all, the loops and replaying stuff, or especially how I could have changed things, right? I could have saved someone. Um, Once you write it out, it's like, okay, I got that loop out. Like, it's out there. I got all those emotions, all those things that I've done. Um, Sometimes what I do, because not all the time when you're, it's 2 in the morning and you've woken up middle of the night and now you're just, the loop is going. What do I do?
I think everyone can
Right.
relate to that. Yeah.
So I have poor handwriting, and so I'm not a person that likes to write. I have done handwriting in different training courses I've done, but just like, I don't know, use your phone. I honestly will just use my phone, either send a note to myself, send an email to myself. I could text myself. I did that a lot with my book. It's not super efficient, but I would just text myself ideas if I had it, or if something was just really bugging me, I could write it out. And I have like all those notes, like from I think since I had my first iPhone 4,
Oh
I
my
still have all
gosh.
those notes, and it's so interesting to go back and read them because you can see how you've transformed and changed as a human being.
Yes, you can. I do the
Hmm.
same thing. I really, really do. Thank you for all of this information, Joe. We're gonna move into movement. Is that cool with you?
Yeah, let's do it.
Are you ready to maybe feel a little weird and be a little
Yeah,
silly?
I
All right.
that's me. I'm the weird silly dad in this house. So
Oh, weird, silly dad. Well, you're perfect for this. So, Bhavana Yoga Dance is my proprietary movement modality to address the parts of the body where we store trauma, generally the lower back and the groin and the hips and places like that. But I think the most important thing for this show in the application of Bhavana Yoga Dance is the emphasis, you guys, on the transition between the movements and you'll know if you've watched us over the last couple weeks, this is nothing complicated at all. We focus on the transition from one movement representing an emotional state, reflecting an emotional state. We move slowly and mindfully to an opposing posture. So that's what we're going to do here. I'm going to recreate. We've been talking about heavy stuff with you, Joe. And then you talk about your colleague who lost 2 daughters by suicide. I don't know this person. And for me, it felt like a gut punch. And I know I went, oh. So, Joe, can you mimic this with me? Like, wow, that just took everything out of me. We're not going to stay here long because we don't want the emotions to generate. I'm going to stand up so you guys can see. Like, oh God, that's unimaginable. Okay. Now we're going to move to something not this. We're moving toward feeling better. So I'm going to opposite movement with my limbs, down, 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 down. My head comes up. Mindfully, I'm paying attention. I notice my shoulders are a little forward. So I'm going to pull my shoulder from here. I'm going to pull them back. We can look up. Yes, that is beautiful, Joe. And we want to feel this and we want to stay here for a moment. We're going to take a breath together and we're going to feel our heart open because we are safe here. We are safe. We will take care of you here. That feels beautiful. Hold it. 1, 1, 1, 2, 2, 2. I'm lying. We're almost done. And when you're open, come back to your normal self.
that's awesome.
Thank you. What did you notice? Can you speak to me about, so we've got the kind of deflated, it's a weird word, but not big enough, but posture. And then we've got the expansive one that you and I shared, that I've shared with all of my guests. So it's going to kind of get boring. I'll mix it up for you guys. Tell me what your emotions were in this process.
Yeah, it really was the range. Feeling that empathy for that loss. It was actually a car accident that they died in, and but I commonly will think about that and pain of that for him and their family. It really is a physical thing. So what you're doing, like there's a lot of scientific, biological proof there that the body and can release. So it's, yeah, I definitely felt like there is something positive and hopeful about reaching, looking up to the sky, stretching out. Breath work is like so
The
great.
bomb.
Yeah. I didn't talk about how important yoga has been for me
Oh,
for the
we have
last
a couple minutes left. I'd love to hear
six,
it.
7 years. So, especially managing my anxiety disorder for the last 7, 8 years since I was diagnosed,
Mhm,
learning how to properly yoga breathe. And
mhm.
we did actually a lot of virtual couples yoga, even
Ah,
family yoga over the pandemic.
oh, cool.
We did it like this with our yoga instructor. And then her and I even DJ'd a couple yoga events with her,
Of course you did.
which was super cool. Yeah. So I'm all in on like this type of movement, stretching, breath work, because our the body keeps the score, right? That book, the we hold on to all this trauma, the grief, anxiety, all this stuff. So this is really cool. I haven't. That's a really neat movement, though. I haven't tried that one before. I'm usually just doing breath work. I liked
Yeah,
how
I made it up.
it opened up. Well, like it opened up the body really easily, and like let it released it.
Oh, good.
You know.
Good. And you know what's funny is I will forget to do these things myself. I will find myself, deliberately working on something and then I feel drained or whatever. And I have to remind myself to do it. So it's really simple. And if anybody's like, well, yeah, I can do that at home. That's nothing special. Exactly. You can do it at home. But it is special because you take the power, Joe, into your own body to change your mood.
Yeah.
And these are first response interventions for everybody. You know that when you get a stiff neck, you need to do this. If we are in an emotional state, start remembering, just do the opposite movement until it feels like your mood has been corrected. It means you feel better. Thank you. I made it up. I mean, we're entrepreneurs, right?
Totally.
Yeah.
Love
Thank
it.
you for supporting that. And thank you for going along with it, Joe. This has been an honor. How can our viewers support your mission? And where can we find you?
Yeah, so I have a few different spots. I'm a home-based business, so I hang out a lot online. Um, LinkedIn is my storefront, so I'm on LinkedIn every day. Just
Mhm.
my name, Joe Lyons-Rising. You can find me on there. I'm also on Instagram, just Joe Lyons-Rising without the hyphen. And other than that, I would recommend checking out grievingchildren.com for Season Center. There's great resources on there, information, and I'm happy to direct people to resources. If you're struggling and you can't find resources in your area, I've been fortunate to connect with a lot of different experts and people in the grief and loss area, especially within suicide loss, in many different parts of the world. So happy to help.
I'm sure you're going to get a lot of grateful people reaching out to you because we need more healers like you, more boots on the ground, and more entrepreneurs who have this heart focus to provide foundations and services for people like us when we were little and we needed them.
Yeah.
I love it. Thank you so much, Joe. Thank you for being here. Everybody, every week you can look forward to new information, new tools, new silly postures, new heartfelt stories and inspiration on ICU with Karla Sue on the I Have Today TV network and on E360 TV. Thank you, Joe Lyons-Rising, for being here with us today.
Thank you so much. Have a great day.
You
Oh, surfer girl, surfer